Well, greetings and welcome to another episode of Lightbulb Moments. Thanks for joining us today, whether you're joining us live or listening to the podcast or viewing us on YouTube. We're glad you're with us, and thanks for spending your precious attention and time with us. Quick shout out to a couple of our sponsors, Lightheart Sanders, the CPA firm, and then Zenoti, both great partners and sponsors. We appreciate their support to bring this forum to you all. This particular episode, we're going to get to a guest shortly, but before I get to that, I want to amplify our last week's episode, where I had as a guest Stacy Sobel and Angela Reich, both of Bobbitt Business Media. And at that time, we made a significant announcement that we have a collaboration that includes a co-location of the Cunity Fill and Celebration of Lightbulb Moments, along with Data Driven and Salon 200. So Salon Today 200. So it's going to be a great collaboration. It's two great events coming together, making it easier for our attendees, whether someone comes to one conference or the other. They're going to be back-to-back consecutive. It's going to be called Salon Week, which is a little bit of a misnomer because we will indeed include spas and med spas. But having said that, we'll be in Austin, and it is in May. So definitely check that episode out, where I got to spend some time with Stacy Sobel and dig deep into it, what it's going to look like, what the collaboration means, how it's good for the industry, how it's good for attendees, sponsors, etc. And maybe it's no accident today that my guest is based in Austin, Texas, and may actually be indirectly part of this collaboration through possibly some spa services going on at the time of the fill. Hint, hint, we'll get to that later. But without any further ado, let me bring Phil Murray to the mic and camera. Good morning, Phil. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Tom. Let me adjust my camera here a little bit. Good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let me get to your bio first, okay? So since 2023, Phil has served as the CEO of milk+honey, a collection of luxury day spas and med spas located in 3 states, Texas, California, and Illinois. There's also a national retail distribution of its wellness and beauty products have been a key part of the milk+honey brand reach, including in all of Ulta's 1,400 stores. I actually did not know that. Throughout his career, Phil has focused on people development, operational excellence, primarily in consumer service businesses. He has held executive roles in industry as diverse as construction, fitness, spa/wellness, software, and tutoring. Immediately prior to his arrival at milk+honey, Phil served as CFO at Camp Gladiator, an outdoor and online fitness business with more than 100,000 members at a time. Phil is a BS in Business Administration and MBA, both from University of North Carolina in Charlotte. Bravo.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you're able to join us today.
Thank you. No, thanks again for having me.
So a few things we're going to explore. And it's always good to get to know the person that is the guest and a little bit about your story. I know that a couple different things that I thought were unique. For example, you've always worked with founders, had different roles, but just give us a sketch of your professional background.
Right. No, for sure. My professional background started like most of us pretty unprofessionally, working at a steakhouse as a 16-year-old and literally kind of working my way through school and then college. And I think I shared with you, I had 13 jobs before, like between age 16 and when I graduated from college. So worked with lots of different kinds of people, learned at a young age, really, a lot of the things of what not to do, right? And also learned a lot about the kind of environments I like working in, the kind of people I like working in. And so while I thought I was originally a computer science major and thought I was going to be a tech guy, ultimately determined I wanted to be involved in the bigger picture. And so switched into business and then really got out of college, landed at that construction company of all things, industry I had no background in, and was fortunate enough to have founders that really just gave me the keys. Anything unrelated to the actual work that was happening in the field, they were the experts there. But everything else, whether it was managing the finances or marketing or HR or legal compliance matters, fleet management, inventory management. I mean, just everything else. Ended up just running everything else as the business grew. I think by 10x over the 9 years I was there, and ultimately rose to become CFO there. And along the way, decided to narrow in for a while into the financial side, so I could kind of really build some deep expertise and have clear branding or more clarity around what it is I'm doing and how I bring value. And so just continued in, VP finance, CFO roles, and some roles that function more like CFO, COO roles. And really looked for opportunities to impact people. And though I spent a few years in software, I really have found myself drawn into these people-intensive businesses, right? Where there's a lot of complexity. There's a corporate support side, there's usually a distributed, field leadership side. There's people on the ground doing things or providing services oftentimes for other people. And so for whatever reason, I've just found myself really drawn to that. And it really creates, just puts what's the word, makes things like culture and leadership development very important in those environments. There's the technical piece of how we get our work done, which is very important. But in those environments, when there's so many people on all sides of the business, you really have to focus on culture, bringing in the right leaders, developing those leaders, and looking at all the intangibles right around how you deal with people. So it's been a fun journey, and super excited to be at Milk and Honey now.
Well, you must be a good leader because you're having people follow you. Some of the people that we've had the pleasure of working with at Milk and Honey, you've worked with previously. So you obviously have a sense of building a team and creating loyalty and trust. So congratulations for that.
No, thank you. It's been a huge honor to be able to work with some of these same leaders now. I guess we're going on 9 years together. So that's been a blast, to say the least.
We have some similarities in our background. It's something that we both grew up with, essentially supporting ourselves, paying for our school, a bunch of jobs, ended up having a specialty in the world of finance with CFO roles along the way, and then moved on from CFO into more CEO type roles. So in a sense, I guess we're a bit of kindred spirits, Phil. I'd like to exclaim that on my end. So all right, let's talk about Milk and Honey. Go back a little bit, because my first exposure with Milk and Honey goes back to when Milk and Honey was a 2 to 10 member. One of the original members, gosh, this had to be about 15 years ago. Founders, married couple, Sean and Alyssa Beyer. And look at where this company has gone, emerged into 3 states. So I don't know where you jump on that one, but I think it's just pretty cool to fast forward to being there, not necessarily at the beginning, but certainly see when you were more in that category of a 2 to 10 salon that tended to stay in that 2 to 5 to 6 locations and not go out of state. Here you've gone to 3 states, your 10 locations. You've diversified into a big chunk of your business is spa, med spa, and hair is actually not. Hair is only in 5 locations, I think. Is that correct?
6.
6 locations?
Yeah, just over half locations. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. I mean, as you know, you learn a lot going. I'm sure the way it works is you learn a lot going from 1 location to 2. And then probably 2 to 5, 6 feels different, and you're building some new systems and rhythms. And what was interesting for Milk and Honey, they really went from 6 to 10 locations during the pandemic, which is tough, right? They actually signed 3 leases, made 3 new commitments to locations in like the first week of March of 2020. And then COVID hit, like everyone else, worked through with the stimulus to kind of keep the company going, and and kind of emerge from all that. And they said, okay, we've got locations we're obligated to open here. And of course, it was a very difficult time to build anything. Supply chain delays, construction costs rising. And so it was in that 21-22 period where the company opened 4 more locations, and had some minority PE investors involved in the business that were able to back that expansion. And and so going from 5 or 6 to 10, that has its own series of challenges. And when I arrived right at the beginning of 2023, it was clear the brand had like such strong loyalty from its guests, and the environment they created was so warm, like a really just solid culture. There was a lot of operational things and even things from a financial management perspective that needed to be reworked. And we brought on new senior leaders, which we've already talked about, and reworked a lot of systems, whether it was just how we communicate or whether it was actual software systems that we're running the business with. And it's just been kind of constant change, and really excited because we've built a pretty strong foundation now where we're ready to start growing again, I think here soon. But yeah, it's been an adventure, and I know that Tom, I met you because one of the founders said, "Oh, we worked with that salon consultant years ago as we were trying to like spend some attention. We love our salons, not a huge part of our growth story, but they're really really important to us in our existing locations and to our guests. And so I know you and your team have added a ton of value. So thank you for that."
Yeah, of course. Pleasure to work with y'all. So you're the first non-founder CEO, right? I mean, prior to you, it was either Sean or Alyssa, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Lot I could say about that. Anything you're more interested to hear about there? More than one thing more than the other?
Yeah, let's stay here just a little bit. Yes, I'm curious about this.
Well, what I would say is kind of alluding back to your you mentioned earlier I'd only worked for founders in my career, and that was just kind of by coincidence, honestly. I found myself in these closely held businesses, and even that first job out of college at a construction company. It was a small company, but I was kind of the special projects guy reporting to the CEO, and then of course moved, the financial route. Um, but I've always, even in college, I did some entrepreneurial things. I've always been drawn to entrepreneurs. Haven't, as a post-college adult, started anything myself, but I've always really enjoyed kind of coming right alongside founders and figuring out how to like fuel their vision and make it happen. And it's just been a really good partnership. A lot of times when people go work, maybe they've worked in a large corporate setting, Fortune 500 or even a mid-market business, 1,000 employees, and they're working maybe a couple levels down the chain. They move into a smaller environment, and they're working directly for the CEO of a 10 million, 20 million, even 40, $50 million company. And if they've not worked in that environment before, it can be frustrating, right? Because I think the belief and the assumption is, well, this founder has hired me because of all my big company experience and my creds and my resume. And so here I am. So now I want to do things. I know how to do things. I want to shake things up. But just because the founder likes your pedigree doesn't mean that they're going to understand how you would operate in their environment. And you have to kind of operate differently. I've had the advantage of never really had to, come from the corporate environment to small. I kind of grew up in small and mid-market businesses. And what I've learned is that if you can kind of sit with the founder and understand their founding story, understanding the history, understanding their values, what they care about, what they were imagining when they created this business, and you can kind of like walk alongside them with their vision kind of internalized as much as you can as a non-founder, and then walk alongside them and kind of help them bring the company into the future. It's a really good formula as opposed to just trying to be like, oh, okay, this is a small company, unsophisticated things over here. I've got this experience over here. We're just going to push them over here. We're just going to jerk them over into the future. This doesn't work so well, right? It's all about kind of bringing them along and not losing sight of what makes the business special and why the business exists in the first place. It's not about pushing a founder aside or squashing their vision by to the contrary. It's all about enabling their vision and figuring out how they can continue to contribute from whatever role they're in. In our case, Alyssa still works in the business on a part-time basis and works on particular project areas that we need her on, and it's more of a pull system. We're like, hey, Alyssa, could you speak into this? And sometimes she'll raise her hand like, hey, I've thoughts on this, or I've concerned about this, and is owed all the respect in the world. And she always has our ear and is there to help. So it's been a great partnership, and worked with a lot of founders, and Alyssa and I, and the relationship we have has been really good, and really commend her to letting go of lots of things. She probably disagrees with me 20% of the time, but I think she believes the other 80% of the time I'm doing as well or even better in some cases than she would do, which is why I'm here. So it's been a lot of fun. There's still a little bit of debate as to who said something first about me, because I technically came in as CFO the first 7, 8 months. And so there's still some debate. She thinks I said something first about the CEO role, but I think she said something first. And what started as a little bit of a banter and joke, kind of like, hey, do you want to just run the company? Became real. And so it's just a huge honor to be able to help, steward this brand into the future.
Yeah, that's really well spoken. I think that whole segment should be recorded and spliced and shared with other members of your community as well as our community. I think it's a really great description of how someone comes in to support founders. Well done, well spoken. I'm glad we went there. All right, let's switch gears here a little bit to an area that is an area of expertise of yours, an area that you've spoken about recently, and it has to do with really design aesthetics in space and how it relates to revenue. And we actually have some slides I'm going to pull up here on your prompting. So let's get into that, because I think it's really about how you differentiate a customer journey, looking at the retail space, the lounge, the environment. So let's have you spend some time on this subject, and then do you want me to pull the slides up?
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe just pull up the first slide, and I'll just give if it's okay, I'll just give a quick description of Milk and Honey, what we do, what services we offer. And this is our storefront. Maybe flip one more slide. I'll just quickly talk about what we do, and then we'll come back. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll go ahead and start the first. Sorry for the confusion. So
Okay.
Milk and Honey is, as you said, is a group of 10 spas, day spas, med spa salons, and started in Austin, 5 locations in Austin, and 1 in Houston, 1 in the DFW area, 2 in Los Angeles, 1 in Chicago. So that's kind of our footprint. And the whole reason Alyssa started the company is she had moved from San Francisco down to Austin for a business school, now almost 20 years ago, or a little over 20 years ago when she moved down here. And she was not finding kind of a luxurious day spa environment in Austin like she had experienced in San Francisco, also New York, where she had lived. And she felt like, I could get out with my MBA and go work in finance, consulting like most of my peers, or I could kind of do something unique and create something special. And so she chose the latter and started Milk and Honey in Austin. And so from the very beginning, what she was envisioning was something with a different aesthetic, a more elevated aesthetic, right? At the time, you had, Massage Envy starting to gain traction, and all the mass market, spas and salons, and there's a place for them. I mean, I think about Massage Envy, Hand and Stone. I mean, they were kind of the trailblazers that kind of grew awareness in the world, right? And in society around, oh, I can go and pay somebody to give me a great massage, and it's an amazing form of self-care. And so we're grateful for them. But what tends to happen is people's, as they start to rise, this self-care and this experience is about more than just the quality of the massage. It's about, what's the environment feel like? What does it look like? Is it relaxing? Is it a place I can kind of decompress and come in, right? And as people's disposable income went up, et cetera, they longed for a more elevated environment. And so she kind of hit the market at just the right time on that. And so from the very beginning, if you look at some of the design of some of the first couple locations, it's very consistent, over the years. And so here we have a couple pictures of our exterior and then the retail area. And what I like to say about the retail area is that's kind of, I was asked recently, I was sitting on a panel, and they said, what part of your design of your space really is the biggest revenue driver? And I said, well, suffice it to say, someone has to have an amazing experience, amazing massage, all this, for them to keep coming back and telling friends. But kind of where all that actually happens is in the retail area, right? And you can see that picture in the upper right. We don't just have kind of counters that people come up to. In most of our locations now, we have these pods, where our front desk or our concierge team can float around freely, help people with retail, show them around, and it's just a very relaxing, free-flowing environment, because it's in the front desk, where in this front area, when people come in, are they greeted warmly? Are we kind of like setting the stage for, you're gonna have an amazing experience? Are they ignored or not paid attention to, or feel like people don't have time for them? That's going to create a tough experience, right? So we spend a lot of time developing and talking to our people about creating a super warm environment, warm welcome, walk people back, especially if it's their first time, walk them back to the locker room. And so we kind of go from front area to the locker room, full robe and slipper service. If they're there, for a hair salon appointment, there's a separate waiting area there. Typically, they don't want to be in a robe in that case. If you go to the next slide, though, Tom, there's some pictures of our lounge. And so And these are 3 different locations. And so this is the place where after they, change into robe and they've been to the locker room, this is where they go to wait for the therapist. And this is really where the experience really gets differentiated, right? We want them to hang out as long as they want, before the service, after the service, want them to decompress. There's no phones in these areas. And this is, of course, crossing the threshold in the retail area, we want them to feel something special. But this is the place where we want them to go to their happy place, or everyone to say it, right? Part of our mission statement is to help people relax and feel good. And this is the kind of environment you're going to experience here that you won't in many spas. One other thing I would say here is each of our locations, we try to draw from some local features. And so the Arboretum location there, it's in Northwest Austin on the left. You can see that was our first location. We brought in these giant trees, and it's because it's at the Arboretum, right? So keeping with that theme, and you can see that the high light collector windows at the top of that. And so just a really beautiful space.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
In each location, we kind of talk about these locations as siblings, so they're not identical twins. But if you go into one, you feel like and you go to another, you can see the common threads between them. And so upper right is our Chicago location. It's a second floor space and looking out. And then the bottom right, a darker, little moodier lounge in the center of the space. And quite a few locations have this feel as well, just depending on kind of the building design and layout. And that's our second location we ever open in the Hill Country Galleria, also in Austin area.
Nice. Beautiful. Very elegant, very classy, simple, element of nature, being in there.
Yeah.
Go to the next slide then.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, and this just shows, we have our own, line of products that you mentioned as well as other high quality spa salon products. And we're just looking for, details in the design throughout the space, try to be fairly minimalist in our approach. And even in the structure, it's not just about the surfaces and the wood grains and the colors we choose. It's also about the structure itself, right? So when you're in the locker room, we tend to bring the ceilings down a little bit. And it's a little more vulnerable space, right? People are in there changing. And then the lounge tends to be a little more expansive. So we try to be very thoughtful in even the structure of our spaces. And then, once all said and done, when people are exiting back through the front area, kind of back to my comment of the revenue side earlier, that's the place then ultimately where our team is able to learn, like, how was your experience? Like, and sincerely care. Like, we want everybody to have an amazing experience. And if they did, there's probably an appropriate conversation to be had there about booking their next appointment. We can share when appropriate more details of our membership program. We're not a heavy-handed sales. We don't have a heavy-handed sales approach. We don't consider our business primarily a membership model, but for the regular ones, we have a kind of a banking deposit form of membership model that gives them ongoing discounts, and has proven to be really popular. But again, we want people to experience this elevated environment as kind of a resort level experience in their community, right? And so it's been just been an amazing brand, and excited to grow it into more places here over time.
See if we have another one. I think that was it in the slides. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
so then now how does this space then, back to how it drives revenue, okay?
Mhm.
And how it might, I think you already mentioned, like, rebook the next appointment, memberships, any other thing before we move on to another subject here on space, the customer journey, or do you think you covered it?
The only other thing I would say is retail is really important for us, and all hair salons and spas, it's really important. And I think that's just another important part of the journey. You see our headline right now below our logo on some of the slides that said spa, med spa shop. And depending on our location, almost all of our locations are in a place where people can just pop in and look around. And you look at a lot of the spa or salon brands, they'll have like one or two product brands represented on the walls with a big banner. Here's the X section, here's the Y section. And we try to, we certainly have some brands that we're deep with, but we certainly have more than one or two, and we try to curate a really interesting selection of items. And so there's even gifting things. There's seasonal items. There's uh, you know jewelry, candles. And it's we try to be really thoughtful and make sure everything, when possible, is clean products, both products we create and products we buy whenever possible. And then just try to be thoughtful of the local geography, what people are buying, caring about, and thinking. And so it's not just shampoo, conditioner, hair creams, and skincare products. It's also other items that we think people that come in our space would enjoy. So that's a big part of elevating the experience. I've seen all, and you've seen it also, Tom, that satisfied customers are just likely to buy more products too. It's a little bit counterintuitive. You're like, well, they've already spent all this money to come have an amazing service, but just the whole experience is so amazing, they just want to continue it, right? And have like a memory of it to take home, and they now have a trusted provider that's going to speak into their interest on products as well. So
I'm gonna get over to med spa, but before I do, just a quick question that just popped up with me in terms of gift card sales and seasonality. How heavy do you get into gift card sales at the traditional times of year, holiday, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day? Is that a big part of your marketing and revenue model?
it is. It is. We see, a May and then December, November, December, the holidays are really the busiest periods. May, you've got Mother's Day, you've got a lot of graduation, you've got Father's Day kind of just around the corner. And so that's always historically been a very busy month, both for service revenue and for gift card sales. And then, yeah, the holiday period. I mean, right now the plan's all kind of locked and loaded, so to speak, and we'll be rolling that out here in the coming weeks. November and December is really important to us. It's from a business perspective, people like to talk about the cash that comes to you in advance and all of that. But what it really becomes is a customer acquisition tool. We find about 40% of it's like 40 or 41% of our gift card redeemers are new guests,
Mm.
right? And so we're selling gift cards largely to existing guests or new guests, but it's just helpful to see that it continues to be an amazing acquisition tool. There's some people that they wait for their spouse or significant other to give them that gift card every holiday, and that's like their way of re-engaging with us. So it's also kind of a retention tool, but then also brings in significant new people as well. And I think if I kind of do the rough math here, Tom, I think about uh 40 to 50% of all of our gift card sales are over that 3 month period, May, November, December.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, before we move over to med spa, my wife and her girlfriends had some services, and it was just an amazing experience,
Oh,
and they're
great.
all pretty used to, great experiences in spas, but they were absolutely delighted. And then I think I've been in maybe 4 year locations when I've been down in Austin, and everybody is super warm and friendly and engaging. And it was really, you really feel that experience when you walk in, whether you're just someone like me, just popping in as a guest, looking at the retail area, or my wife and her girlfriend's experience in the full service, just par excellence. Two thumbs up for you and your team. So.
No, thank you. I probably haven't talked enough about the people side of it. As mentioned at the beginning, what an important part it is. But our general managers, location managers, and the HQ support team give a ton of credit for them or to them for building this kind of culture of elevated guest experience, and it's been a big focus of ours this last year. So
All right, let's get over to med spa here. This is our final area here. So med spa,
yeah.
you've got a pretty good pulse on where the med spa market expansion is, where it was, where it is. So let's do a state of the med spa union, world according to Phil.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a great topic and one we're spending a lot of time on, and it's interesting because there's so much happening in the space, and it's been such a, lack of a better term, such a hot space now for a few years. And in fact, if you kind of look at U.S. med spa location count, I just pulled this up. In 2021, there were just over 7,400 med spas in the U.S., and now 3 years later, there's 11,500. Right. So growing compound annual growth rate. Okay, two finance geeks here talk about this, over 15% compound annual growth rate, just over 3 years here. And so there's more med spas than Starbucks. They really are seemingly in every corner. And what's interesting is med spas historically, people had medical aesthetic services in their plastic surgeon's office or dermatologist's office. And some day spas started participating in that space. But really with kind of the explosion, it's interesting looking at kind of how our Instagram and TikTok culture has taken off kind of around and since the pandemic and Zoom meetings and doing things like this now. Everyone's just caring more about their appearance and they realize it's a fairly low barrier from a cost perspective. It's certainly discretionary, it's certainly a luxury. But of all the luxuries, we could go spend money on and do. It's an accessible luxury for many people now. And so I think honestly the investment community has fueled a ton of the growth, in building up many of these med spa chains or helping to consolidate and bring together a lot of the solo owner operator type operations around the country. And so what's interesting is where, luxury day spas historically played, which was, massage, facials and basic skincare, as well as hair salon and nail services in many settings, like in many of ours. Even it would begin to move down that continuum to advanced skincare. Really, you have these more pure play med spa clinics that are now starting to move down into basic skincare services. In fact, I saw some data points that med spas now offer, or on average, med spas generate 18 to 20% of their revenue comes from facials and more basic skin services that don't involve a needle, right? Or don't involve a laser. And so really, in some ways, this whole world is kind of coming together. And as I talk to people in the investor community or other operators in the space, they always want to know, well, what's your med spa strategy? And really, my message to them is, med spa services, it's going to be a permanent part of the economy, until there's something else one day. But they're going to be out there forever. So we're not out there really trying to compete with those pure play med spas on their terms. We're really continuing to try to build an enduring brand with, as we've talked about, amazing guest experience, amazing aesthetic. Obviously, we want to hire highly qualified, medical providers, just as we want to hire highly qualified, massage therapists and others, right? We're not hiring people right out of school into our kind of environments. But, we believe that the brand, our guests have given us permission to operate in a variety of modalities and provide a variety of services. And so it's going to be an important part of the business long term. It is now, just continuing to grow. So it's interesting to watch it, and I love working for a brand where we can evolve our service offerings as needed over time to meet our guests' needs. But we know from surveys a high percentage of them are consuming med spa services or interested in med spa services somewhere. And so working to increase the emphasis on that in our own business. So I know I said a lot there. I don't know if you want to dig into any specifics there or not, but.
Well, I think we are definitely seeing an evolution of med spas offering more traditional spa services, or what otherwise would have been a clinic is to offer aesthetics and massage, and then vice versa to see salons start to add med spas,
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's talking about it, and but as you're suggesting, boy, that's very, very high growth in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gotten more competitive. And so, but clearly Milk and Honey has differentiated yourselves in a really strong and powerful way that kind of goes all the way back to the aesthetics and the design and the experience and the expectations you have and the vision that it all started with. So it's such a fun brand to watch. And I've been dying to get our community to learn a little bit more about Milk and Honey because I've been such a fan. And so I think we covered, Phil, what I'd hoped to cover today and even more. Anything else you want to suggest, or any other points that you think would be good for our community to hear?
I don't think so. I think we covered the main bases. I mean, it's a really interesting community, and I've been able to get connected to a few of the organizations across the spa and of course now salon sides of the world, and really great business. I love being in a business where we're impacting people, and hopefully, we're creating good experiences for our employees, our team members, right? Such that they're able to provide amazing experiences for our guests, and then just everything works well when that's going. And so thanks for having me today, Tom. It's been great.
Yeah, let's give Phil a virtual round of applause for those of you that are with us live. And if you're not, put a note, put a comment note. So Phil, you should be receiving your $1 million light bulb as a member of our brain trust. So
Hey,
you'll be getting a small gift that you'll be able to put on your shelf
does
with.
does it work? Does that paper catch on, is the $1 million bill gonna catch on fire if I, screw it in? Oh.
I'm quite curious if people have tried to dig it out or not. But anyway,
Yeah.
you're a long list of great guests that we've had, and I've been dying to have you on here. So thanks for being such a great guest. Thanks for the work that we've done together. And I'm so excited about the future of Milk and Honey, and shout out to you and the team. So thanks again for being a guest today.
Yeah, no, thank you, Tom. Take care.
All right, everybody, that's a wrap. We are off next week. Next week is the, I think, 17th annual 2 to 10 conference in Palm Springs. So we will not be on next week, and I'm not actually sure what the next day will be, but we will communicate that by email if it's not already in the chat. So once again, thanks for spending your precious time with us. Oh, JP, thank you. See you in November is what it is. So we'll be back in touch in November, which, my gosh, it's right around the corner. So, but that's all we got today, folks. Thanks for joining us, and thanks again to Phil Murray from Milk and Honey for being such a great guest. Thanks all. Bye.